Hello and welcome to Story and Song Bookstore Bistro online today and in person as well. It's just really great to see things revving up again. And Leah and I were just talking about her book, The $1,000 Startups, and how when we were really little, we kind of had a sense, that intuitive wisdom that we have, that we had ideas and it was worth listening to. So I think you're going to be thrilled with today's presentation by Leah Ward-Lee, who's going to tell us to follow those dreams and do the research and find the freedom and find the passion and find the purpose for our lives. One of my favorite quotes is from a poetry book downstairs, and it's Mary Oliver, and one of her big questions, and some of you may know it. What will you do with your one wild and precious life? So if you've joined us today to think about your purpose and your livelihood and what are you going to do with all the rest of your life, we're so glad that you joined us. Leah, thank you so much for being here. We look forward to your program.
Thank you, Donna and Connor. And thanks to all of you who are here today. I really appreciate your support. I want to start by talking about books and the importance that books have to everyday life. A book can bring alive a dream. The stories in a book and the way you think about the characters and the ideas that they have, they come to life in your head. This today is a story about how a community brought 2 books to life. So as I go through the slides, you're going to see there's 37 slides, but most of them are pictures. And most of them are the pictures of the people who brought our books to life this year. So here I am out at Macedonia AME at one of the small business fairs, and we're there because of $1,000 startups. The book has 60 businesses that a micro entrepreneur can start for less than $1,000. The book does everything that you think a 520-page book would do. It exhausts you. For each of those 60 businesses, it tells the personal knowledge you need to have. It tells the professional knowledge. It tells the general skills, the venue, the equipment that you're going to need. And it tells how that business makes money. It also, for each of those businesses, it talks about how you set that business up, how you market it. Then it goes through the process and says, okay, set up your back office too. Don't just set up your front office, and helps you do that. Then it has a whole section for every business where I talk to business owners who have that business and how they made their business successful. And if they had to do it again, and if they had no money, not even $1,000, maybe if they had $100, how would they start that business? And for 5 years, I talked to those business owners and cataloged and asked questions. I'll come back to that, but first I want to show you the pictures that we talked about. Here we are at one of the small business fairs. On the left is Tony Lee, who'll be talking today about his book, and his dad, who's on the right, who's in the audience today. Thanks, Mike, for coming. Together, the 2 of them, not only is Tony an author and one of the board members of the $1,000 Startups Consortium, but he's an author too. He wrote the book, The Bartender's Guide to Financial Freedom. I'll tell you more about that one later. Before we go any further, I just have to make the confession. I am a serial entrepreneur. It's just something I can't control. Donna and I were talking about that. I started my first business when I was 10. And I've been starting and operating businesses ever since. Some of them were even successful. So I've had a business as an aerobics instructor. I've had a business that was a consignment shop. Some of you will remember that one. A gift shop, a gift basket making business. I even had a radio show, Executives Toolbox on Voice of America. I just kept starting businesses. And I was really lucky because I was in the service. So every time after 3 years, you move and you go to a different duty station. So if the business isn't doing very well, you lick your wounds, you take what you learn, you go to the next place, and in your spare time, you start a new business there. By the time I got to my 20 years where I was eligible to retire, I went off to work for a big industry and in insurance, et cetera, as a chief technical officer. That lasted for about 4 years. When that siren started again, it's like, you know, you really want to own your own business. You know, you really know how to do this. Come on, you can start a business, Leah. Do it, do it, do it. This was 1998, and I started LWL Enterprises, which is a consulting firm, and it's since added publishing to have that business operating today. Thank goodness, right? So with that, here's Sam Lane, who's in the audience. He's also a board member of the $1,000 Startups Consortium. He's our secretary and treasurer. Now you're going to see that there's a little bit of a theme here with the board of $1,000 Startups Consortium right now. Right now it's friends and family, because for nonprofits, that's typically the first year how boards start. So when I get to the very end of this presentation, I'm going to be asking for help, because we do need more board members, and we have some board members right now who would gladly give up their seats if they could get somebody to come take them. So I will let you know that at the end. Don't raise your hand, please, Sam. I saw that. Confession number 2, why I wrote this book. I told you about the consulting practice that I'd started. My clients were companies like State Farm Insurance, Boeing, Hawker Beechcraft, Cirrus Aircraft, Northrop Grumman. And I was so fortunate, I never marketed. I started that business by printing off some business cards on my home printer, sticking them in my Christmas cards with the name of the business on it. And my friends and family that I accumulated over all those years in the Army started calling me for business. So I ran myself ragged for the first 6 months trying to set up the infrastructure. And it took me several more years to really get it right. But as my business started to thrive and grow, the companies that I was working with, I started to become more just increasingly aware of the disparity between the people who owned the business and what they were earning and the people who worked in the business. And I railed about that for a while. And then one night I was sitting in my hotel room. Now, just an aside here, one of the things to tell you about a management consultant is you get on a plane every single Sunday night and you fly to the city where your client is and you work with your client all day. You go back to a hotel room and you got to do something. So I did a lot of thinking and a lot of learning, and that started to bother me. And I sat there thinking about it for a long, long time, and I'll come back to that in just a minute. This is Pastor Anthony Daniel in the picture on the left. He's the pastor of the Macedonia AME Church. He's also a board member. And you see John Carver sitting right back there. He's right over here in our audience today. He and his wife, Zen, have a business, The Helpers. And we'll talk more about Zen's other business later. There's Mike Lee, who you've already met. And there's a diplomat who's now over in Europe. His name is Francis Abera. But anyway, I had this moment sitting in that hotel room where I had a blinding flash of the obvious. Owning a successful business is the deal changer that puts you in control of your destiny. If people didn't like the rules, the guys who own the business get to make the rules, right? And if you didn't like the rules, well, then what was the answer? Start a business. So I started the quest to figure out what was the least amount of money that someone could take, and how could you do it in a way that was the formula? And henceforth, all those interviews I did with those business owners to figure it out. Here we have one of the members of the pilot program. This is Kim Murray. She owns the business Herbabilities. We had our first prototype fair when we did the pilot for $1,000 startups out in her backyard. She has an acre, and each of the businesses, think of the science fair you did when you were in 7th grade. Each of the businesses had their table and they had their own little pop-up shop, and they got to test their product and get feedback from their classmates. They let their friends and family show. One of the businesses that Tony will show you actually sold out of all their product before the fair was over because they put it up on Facebook. So those businesses gave each other that feedback and got ready for prime time before they went to prime time. So that's something that we keep in the program today. So one of the things that you'll see in $1,000 startups in the book and in the courses that we teach is that we believe in setting a business up for success. Because if you set the business up for success, it can make it. If you don't set it up for success, or you try to skip some of the steps, it puts a lot more risk and a lot more stress on the owner. Here I am at Staples with a management group. She's the woman that makes the masks. She makes the masks we all want. And what you don't know about her and can't tell from the picture is Sabrina she's a former police chief, and she's a former member of the NCIS. She's an investigator for NCIS. She just retired and started this business. Next to her is Bree Rupp, who's the manager of the marketing and print shop at Staples, and the person who invited all of our businesses to have their own pop-up shop anytime we wanted to, just by scheduling through our calendar and going over there and practicing selling their things for the day. So we've had about 15 of our businesses that have gone through that and actually displayed over there. So one of the things that we tell people is don't spend more than $1,000 to start your business. Now, that doesn't sound intuitively obvious, and it doesn't sound like it's enforceable, and it's not enforceable. We do have some business owners that just can't help it. The minute they start making those first sales, they throw money at it. And then the stress starts. When you have to start your business for less than $1,000, it makes you go through the business cycle enough times where you learn what you're doing and you streamline it, and you start to understand how to do every single job in the business. You're not running around in the middle of the night trying to build a website because you took the time to get that done. So in our program, the program that we'll talk to you about, we teach something for 3 or 4 weeks, then we try it out. We teach something, then we try it out. So by the time people get to the end of the program, they have their business started and their business tested and their business marketed and all the things already put in place, and they haven't spent more than $1,000 if they stick with it. So this is our chef, Chef Silena Green of Island Personal Chefs. For the small business fairs that we did this year, she did all of the catering. And I have to tell you, she is so good. We start our business fairs at 10 and they go till 2. By 11:30 every day, she'd be sold out and packing up to go home. So Chef Silena is also the chef over at Sliders. And she's related, you know, Southern Sisters on 14th Street. They're her aunties and cousins. So it's a cooking family, and boy, they do it well. The second tenet, start your business as a side hustle. So in $1,000 startups, we don't register, we registered businesses early this time. This next time through, we learned register your businesses a little late. Why is that? Number one, and Lisa Lee knows about this, you might start a business, put all of the energy into it, get it up and running, have invested a bunch of money and a bunch of time, and turn around one day and you say, I hate being in this business. I can't imagine getting up one more morning and going to work in this consignment shop. I am just done with this, right? But then you're in too far to figure out how to stop. You've got too much money into it. So by starting that $1,000 and starting it as a side hustle, you get to figure it out. During the program, we had 2 people change the businesses they were going to be in the middle of the program, just by actually doing it. They realized, you know, this may have been a great idea, but this is not what I want to do. This is not how I want to invest my time. This is not what I want to be in business to do. Here you go. Here's Zen Waters. She was a member of the pilot program. John's behind her. They created quite a stir at the pyrotechnics that were involved at the prototype fair. It was something to see. I think she's got a video of that on her Facebook page. It was a great day. Prepare for growth. and I talk about this and I just completely nag about this all the time. Small business owners like to get started. They're people who like to do things, and they don't want to typically stop the time to write the procedures that tell how to do that. If you start early and you write those procedures down as you're going along, those procedures can get better. And then guess what? When you start to grow, you got the procedures and you got the job description, so you can actually hire someone to help you. If you don't do that, what ends up happening? You're the only person who knows how to do anything, and you're so busy doing, you can't bring anybody into the business, or you lose momentum. So that's part of the program that really, really emphasize. This is Jamisa, essentially me by Jamisa and Veronica, who has Glory Coverings. Veronica is already registered for this next class, and she's going to be doing a couple of the segments on Instagram. She's just amazing when it comes to that. Start your business with a cohort. When I wrote this book, my friends will tell you, I spent all this time, 5 years, on writing the book. Then I built a website, and then I wrote some blogs, and I never marketed it. I never did any marketing. But my friends and family bought the book, and a few other people bought the book, and it did okay, but I was never going to make a living as an author. But the number one comment I got was how difficult it was to start a business on your own, and how great it would be to be part of a cohort or a class. I got to see that during the pilot and actually experience that, because every week when we get on our Zoom calls, if somebody had an issue that they were dealing with or trying to figure out, someone in the class typically had already dealt with it, because all the businesses were kind of in different stages. We had a few people who had businesses that had started. We had a few people that were still exploring ideas. We had some people who'd been doing it for a really long time, and we all helped each other. And from that, we learned. The other thing in starting it with a cohort is there's a cycle that a business owner goes through, where you start out with, you're just uninformed and optimistic. And then you go through this phase where you're uninformed or more informed, but you're pessimistic. And then kind of the third stage is the pits of despair, where you've recognized how much trouble this is going to be and how hard it's going to be. But if you're with a cohort, they talk you down. Because once you get through that phase, you're back to the optimistic phase again. And then what happens is you get to success. Now, I didn't know about that cycle. And I got to the point with this business, with the consortium, where over the winter, I was in the pits of despair. It's like, holy crap, what am I taking on? I can't do all this. This is insane. I need some help. I need some more money, da, 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 da. And so I called up the Small Business Development Center, and they assigned me a mentor. My mentor called me out. She told me in the first 15 minutes of our meeting, the 3 things I was doing wrong. And it's like blinding, flash of the obvious again. And since then, things have really gotten back on track. I'm meeting my plan. I have a good plan. I'm doing the things I need to do and helping lead the organization in a way that's going to result in success. But had I not had somebody to talk to at that point, somebody who wasn't a partner, somebody who wasn't a friend, somebody who wasn't someone I had to impress, but somebody who knew, I wouldn't have gotten that advice and I might have given up. So starting with a cohort is just a wonderful idea. This is Janet Miche. She was a member of our pilot program too, and she was just a font of knowledge. Janet's an artist, but she's also a graphics artist, and she designs websites. She now paints pet portraits. So she's been at all of the business fairs. When she was doing the pilot with us, she was the first one out to the prototype. So she did the prototype of the prototype, because she wasn't ready to even go outside and be socially distanced. So she built her whole prototype in her living room. and filmed it for us. So we met in class on Wednesday, and then we did the prototype fair on Saturday, but we all got a chance to see somebody else's. And the feedback was just wonderful on what we learned from that. So thank you, Janet. Finally, collaborate rather than compete. So one of the things that I continually see is that new business owners are a little concerned when there are other businesses in their business. The people that are in your business are the people you can learn from. As Donna says, I don't want to be the only bookstore on Amelia Island, because we learn from each other, and together we increase the reading population. And that's what it's all about. I've seen at the fairs where similar businesses are the biggest helpers to those. And pretty soon you see them off chatting in a corner, learning from each other. And then the next thing you know, they're calling each other to do things. Oh, I heard this class, let's go do it over here. Or I found this supplier. So don't be afraid of competition, embrace it. But with competition comes responsibility. Promote your competitors and promote all the business owners you know. Because every time you promote another business owner, the small business grows in the community. And eventually, people will catch on that you're someone who helps others, and they'll start helping you back. This is the Merrill family. Alan Merrill, they have like 6 businesses between the two of them. They're just uber entrepreneurs. Alan has A1 Auto and Lawn Care. He did my yard yesterday. I love Alan Merrill now. I have been trying to get that yard done for weeks. He also washes cars. It's kind of the concierge car wash. Betsy's met him. It's the concierge car wash where he'll come to your house and do it there, or he'll take it away and do it and bring it back. So we use him. Shantae, she has a marketing business where she will help you build a marketing campaign on Instagram or on Facebook. Additionally, she sells all types of beauty products. So they came to our last fair and will be in a class, I hope, this time around. With that, I'm going to bring up in just a moment Tony Lee. But first, let me set the stage. So Tony Lee wrote this book, The Bartender's Guide to Financial Freedom. This is the book that's used in the course for the financial management piece of it and for the life skills piece of it. Now you wonder how a bartender could get that. And you have to understand the demographic differences between Dallas, Texas, and Amelia Island and Florida. Florida is a destination location. Amelia Island is a destination spot. People come here to have a good time. The locals and the people that live here all the time often go to different places than the folks coming to the island. So here on the island, bartenders are not celebrities. What are the celebrity people? The chefs and the venues, right? Dallas, Texas is different. In Dallas, it's all about seeing and being seen, being at the right place, and being where everybody else who's in the know is. And in that venue, Tony will never tell you that, but in Dallas, Texas, he was the guy. Tony could put a Facebook post out about a place where he'd be the bartender for the evening, or where he'd train the bartending staff, and there'd be 1,000 people there, people lined up down the road. He did very, very well. And with that, I'd like to introduce you to Tony Lee. Tony? To flip the slide, you just press this button on the right.
Gotcha. First off, thank you guys for being here. Your support really does mean the absolute world to us. Like Mom said, I'm lifelong in the bar business, on the board with $1,000 Startups Consortium, co-owner of Honeydews by Lee, vice president of publishing for our publishing company. we've got our hands in a lot of pots, but this community has really been welcoming to us and allowed us to really become integrated. Let's talk about the bar business. So I actually have not seen these slides yet. So there's going to be a lot of people that I've met in passing or have really gotten to know well while we've been doing this. As you can see, this is Serena Floyd. I'm really just going to kind of breeze through the slides. Let's talk about the one thing that you can't ever get back. As this life is a very fruitful endeavor, and we get a lot of gifts. But there's one thing that once it's gone, it's never coming back around, and that's your time. This life is a ride for each of us. And what you do with that time is really how you set the value on your life. I wasted an awful lot of time and an awful lot of money. I can't say wasted. I spent an awful lot of time standing behind bars, thinking about what I would do if I had a day off, being so tired when I finally took a day off that I just want to get back to work. It was really the only lifestyle that I knew. Starting in May of 1998, when I walked into my first restaurant, I got my job at my first restaurant when I was 15. Never stopped. That's for those of y'all that keep track of these things. That makes it almost 23 years that I've been in the bar and restaurant business. 15 years old, I walked into a CC's Pizza to pick up my buddy Mike. I believe we had a double date or something fun was going to happen. I needed Mike to get off work, and some of his side work that day was restocking napkin caddies. I decided to jump in and help him, and as we restocked that and cleaned up the restaurant, the manager on duty came over and asked if I'd be willing to come on and work, and I started working at CC's Pizza that week. I think 2 years later, he found out I wasn't old enough. But started at CC's, just taking orders, making pizzas, cleaning, learning how to really interact with guests and with customers in a restaurant setting. I went from there to being a dishwasher and really starting to see how a kitchen works at a place in San Antonio. I know you remember Bill Miller Barbecue. Went from there to waiting tables, to bar backing, to being a bartender, to being a shift manager, a general manager, and an operating partner overseeing multiple locations. I've done a lot of other things. I've left the bar and restaurant business a couple of times, managed shoe stores, somehow became a handyman, but bartending and really being in the service field is in my blood. I've done somewhere between 45 and 50 concepts. So learning different styles of how to serve your guest, how to keep pace, how to run either a super crazy busy restaurant and bar when you're the only front of house employee, to being forced to take a step back so that I could oversee an entire operation and really train my staff and get our service levels to where they needed to be. I made an awful lot of money doing this. That's like Mom was saying, the bar and restaurant lifestyle out here is very different. Out here, it's very common to show up for your shift, work 4 or 5 hours, you clean up your little area, clean up the restaurant, roll some silverware, clock out, take your cash and go home. Wasn't quite like that when I was coming up. That's the way that I've always done it. You get one corporate restaurant job where you're dressed very much like this. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. I'd be happy to get that for you. You do that for 6 or 7 hours a day. Run home, feed the cats, take a shower, change clothes, and go to your independent bar where you might be standing on the top of the bar, pouring shots from 5 feet up, dancing, singing, doing whatever it takes to really keep the atmosphere going, because that's what keeps the drink selling. I developed a really big pattern. I would always have 2 or 3 bars. I would work 14 hours a day, 19 hours a day, sometimes 20 hours a day. And I would do that for 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half with no breaks until I just crashed. I'd wake up one day and say, you know what, I can't do it. They can fire me. They can do whatever they need to do. I'm done. So I'd have a very short period where I'd sit at home and try to rest and eat right and regroup and then jump right back into the same thing. It was a very trying lifestyle, but a very lucrative lifestyle. I've had years where I've easily cleared 6 figures. There was never a real worry about being completely broke, but somehow it always seemed to happen. I'd make $8,000 in a week, and at the end of the month go, oh man, how am I going to pay my rent? I'd make $1,800 in a day, and the next day go, why don't I have $200 in my pocket? And it's something about bar money. It's very easy go. A whole lot of thank you so much, bye. So realized that pattern wasn't going to work for me forever, but I didn't know how to stop. It wasn't until I was invited to and asked to move out here that I was forced to take stock. Why am I constantly doing this to myself? Why am I working so hard and making so much money and still struggling with having enough to pay my bills, struggling with the concept that you're always one emergency away from being completely broke? That's if I had ever gotten truly, truly hurt, can't stop working because then the money stops coming in. I've worked with broken ribs. I've worked with broken hands. I've worked where my eyes were so dark and so bloodshot I could barely see, and just kept it going. There had to be a purpose, but I never took the time to really figure out what that was. Luckily, I came down to Amelia Island. The 3rd day that I was here, I dropped a 200-pound piece of furniture on my hand and shattered all of this. I had to take a break. Doesn't matter how good you are or if you're ambidextrous or not, it's really, really hard to bartend with one hand completely encased in metal. Plus, I was in a new city and a new state, coming to a new community, and honestly, I was just exhausted. So I spoke with Mom, who, as you'll see, is really a financial whiz and a master of mastering concepts. And she said, look, you know the bar business. I know money. You have to take a break anyway. Why don't we write this book? That's how the Bartender's Guide to Financial Freedom, AKA How to Quit Being Broke, really got started. So we took that month that I wasn't able to work, traded ideas back and forth every day. I'd write a couple of pages or work on a chapter. I'd send it to Mom. She would give me the real backbone of how the finances were supposed to be laid out and how we could accurately convey that message. And then I would live that. So whatever we talked about in a chapter, I would live that every single day. Like I said, I made a ton of money in this business. I tried many, many different things to hold on to some of that, from coming home every day and writing in my little notebook how much I made that day and sticking my cash in a Converse box because you can't trust banks. I tried everything to really hold on to some of that money that I was killing myself making, and nothing had really worked until we sat down and worked out this program. So in this slide, you can see Dana and Dan, a lovely, lovely married couple. Dan is a preacher or pastor? Minister. He's a minister. He really works with disadvantaged youth or people who are dealing with issues that they're having trouble breaking the cycle on. Dana was a member of our pilot program for $1,000 startups in the Bartender's Guide when we started online training. And now she's got a successful business, and she has a brood of kids that love to taste test all of the wonderful products that she makes. As we say in the restaurant business, it's quality control. I'm not stealing a piece of your steak. I'm making sure that that steak is delicious for you. You're welcome. So when we started talking about really what can a bartender, what can a server, what can a dishwasher, what can a flight attendant, what can a nurse, what can somebody do to hold on to money when they're not a salaried employee? We had to lay out some ground rules. First, we had to figure out why is it a good idea? Why is it a great idea to really start saving your money, really start living a frugal lifestyle until you get on top of things? So, I mean, it starts with making the decision. It starts with your blinding flash of the obvious. Hey, I'm tired of doing this. This is my life. And when it runs out, I'm never going to get it back. So let me make a change. Let me not be beholden to my finances anymore. So you make the decision, then you really need a plan in place. And that's managing your money and your time. In the book, we walk through 10 steps that you can do every single day, once a week, twice a month, to really be on top of your money. That's what financial freedom is. It's never having to worry about having that catastrophic accident that means that you can't bring money in. And we did it for people that are not salaried employees. So it's a little bit easier, we found, to stick to a budget when you know exactly what's coming in. Much different story when today I'll make $200, tomorrow I might make $40. Today I'm going to make $400. Tomorrow I've got a cold, I can't be behind the bar, hacking my lungs up. I've got to take a day off and try to recover. So now I'm making nothing. It's a very much a lifestyle that bartenders and servers, that non-salary people go through, where it's always okay to spend money because I'm gonna make it again tomorrow, but you really can't live a successful and financially free life trying to do that. So we worked on how to really manage your money and your time.
This is Jeanette Baker and Lorraine Spalding at one of the small business fairs. They ran a voters registration booth.
Get out and vote, unless you're clocked into work because you can't get a day off. So, setting yourself up for success. We've all heard this. It's a tried and true tenet. I can put a program in place and set myself up, and by this time next year, I'll be rich. Without a very firm backbone, without a listed program, it's very hard to stick to a plan to set yourself up for success. So when we talk about getting out of your own way, it's how do I break this mentality of it's okay to spend whatever I've got, tomorrow I'll make it back. Getting out of your own way is how do I make time for myself to really manage my life, my money, my relationships, instead of just every day I get up, I'm gonna go stand behind a bar, I'm gonna go manage a restaurant, I'm gonna go wash some dishes, I'm gonna go clock in at work. Instead of managing your life, you're just getting by. So it's a mindset or a block or just your lifestyle. It's always easy to make money. It's always okay to not have to take care of things because I'll just make it again tomorrow. We worked in the book on how to break out of that mindset once you've made the commitment that you'd like to be financially free.
All righty. Thank you,
This is a
Tony.
familiar face. Mr. Connor, who is our IT genius, and you wear a lot of hats for $1,000 startups as well. That's a lot of this doesn't happen without Connor, just like none of this really happens without you guys in the community. Just to wrap things up, I'll run through what we decided to do and why these things are so intricately tied together. Going through the Bartender's Guide to Financial Freedom system, where you start from your first day, your first shift, your first dollar, to I don't have to worry about anything. It's the third day of the month. My bills are paid for the month. I've got money in the bank. I really like that car. I don't need to call anybody to co-sign. I don't need to worry about my credit. That's financial freedom. So in the book, we cover the 10 steps to really reach that goal. And we figured that would be a great starting point for people that wanted to start their own small business. Once you get on top of your money, you can start to focus on other things. So I'm going to turn this back over to you, Mom.
Thanks.
Thank you guys
Great
very
job.
much.
Connor. So Connor was in the pilot program too, but he was the stealth person in the program because he had to work often when we were having our classes. So we've been meeting over here every Monday since the program started. I've talked about the pilot. In the pilot, by the end of it, we had 6 new businesses that had started. And we learned so much from those business owners. And one of the things that we learned was we really wanted to make this a nonprofit and do it. So we went ahead and we registered as a 501c3 and we got that up and running. Here's another member of our pilot class. These are the Heibels, Kurt, Christine, and McKenna Heibel. These are the folks with Amelia Island Microgreens. The program itself, again, on April 17th this year. It's going to run all the way through till November 6th or 7th, whatever the Saturday is. And it will have, this time, we'll just meet one time a week. This is the first information session about it. So we'll be letting people know about it between now and the time the program starts. We're going to again invite everybody in the community to take the program at no cost and to be members of the consortium, again, at no cost. Oh, this is Juice Cosmetics. They just got their 1,000th follower on Instagram. It's a beautiful business. They do the vegan and no animal testing products for faces and lips, et cetera, et cetera. The 2 little girls are the faces of the business and involved in it. The consortium that I talked about, we've now got about 50 members in the consortium who have businesses or who support businesses. And they get together and market. They also display together and look for opportunities to grow their small businesses. So it's also on Facebook. We've got a Facebook group and a Facebook page. And you'll see our members posting and sharing what everybody else is doing. They all shared for me today about this opportunity. And I'm sure some of you saw that. Here's Macedonia AME. It was really important to me that the place that we hold our fairs be representative of the history of this island. But because we started this to promote income opportunity, it was also incredibly important to me that the population that would be most affected by this would be the population that is traditionally underserved. And so we made the decision, and Macedonia AME opened their arms up to us, and we had all 3 of our fairs there, and we'll continue to do that this coming year. Sometimes it's frustrating for the businesses because they want to get out and be mainstream and be out on Main Street displaying during the prototype fairs and the small business fairs, but that's not really the purpose. The purpose is community for those fairs. They can do that as soon as they're launched. The support we've gotten from that community and the kindness and the generosity and the willingness to let us be part of the community has really, really been encouraging. And it's made us want to continue. When I reached that moment of despair, it was remembering those people and how kind they'd been. The members of that church, for every fair, they came out and helped set up. They mowed the lawn. They brought the tables out. The pastor would be out there putting tents up. So we were thrilled when at the final fair this year, they kicked off and announced their 150th anniversary is coming up next summer. And they started their fundraising to get the building ready for the 150th anniversary of the church. It was quite a moment. So thank you, Macedonia AME. I'll start to close with destiny isn't a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. Every one of the businesses here that brought these books to life took the chance and made the choice. It's not a thing to be waited for, it's a thing to be achieved. This quote is by William Jennings Bryan. It's quoted in the biography of John Lewis. as someone who inspired him as he led the Freedom Runners. How to get involved, what you come for. So if you're interested, there's like 6 or 7 ways to get involved, and I'll go through them very quickly. If you're interested in taking the course, it's absolutely free. We have the applications here. Everybody is welcome. Everybody is welcome. There's no cost. It's 6 months, but it is hard work. And we expect everybody that comes does their absolute best. And we weren't disappointed the first time. I don't think we'll be disappointed this time. Another way you can help today, you can buy a book. The profit from the books goes to pay the operating expenses of the program. So if you buy a book, we'll sign the book for you and we'll be delighted. If we run out of books, there are more on order. Share the book with a friend, or share that we're coming up for our next class. If you have a friend that wants to be in business or start a business, please send them my way. I'll have cards up here and flyers up here so you can make sure to get the word out. If you belong to any type of an organization that has people that may be interested in this program, or funding a scholarship or funding a small business, please let me know. I'd be glad to come speak to them. I'd bring Tony with me too, because he's pretty cool. You're welcome to support the program with a donation. We are grant writing. One of the businesses I wrote about in the book is grant writing, and I pulled that out, and I've been writing grants like you wouldn't write grant applications like you wouldn't believe. I'm sure some of them will come through, but if they don't come through in time, we will figure it out. But you are welcome to donate, and we would be thrilled. Another way is to support the program with your skills. If there's something that you can do to help, if there's something that you can teach, please let me know. I'd be delighted to have a guest speaker on any business topic. It's no fun when everybody's got to listen to me every week. You can see how I can drone on and on and on. Tony at least keeps it interesting, but the class keeps it interesting too. So if you can teach, let's talk about it, and I'm sure there's a class you can teach. And those are the only ways I can think of. Now, I'm at the end of my presentation. We'll be signing books, but before we leave, does anybody have any questions? Sam.
Does Connor have more than one shirt?
He said that too. You know he's blushing. It seems like every time he's getting his picture taken, it's like, wear this shirt, somebody's going to take my picture. Wear this shirt, somebody's going to take my picture.
This is my nice work shirt.
Anybody else? Yes, Jenny. $24.95 or $99. I'm not sure. 24 something. And everybody who buys a book today gets the $1,000 Startups and Bartender's Guide to Financial Freedom notebook. Free. All righty. Thank you guys very much. Okay, mask.